Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Penick. We've got a nice long interview with Dan Duggan, basically 30 minutes, which we try to keep our camp interviews at 20 minutes. And so we hit most of the camp talk with Dan Duggan. So, you'll enjoy that. We're going to do some preseason things to watch and then some updates, obviously. But first, I want to thank everybody for coming out to FanFest.
Yes.
It's a very fun event. It was very successful this year. Had a good turnout. We had Nick Gates stop by. Clem,
it was very cool.
Clem, who's going to be on the show in a week or so. Some of the reporters, Arch Stapleton, Jordan Renan, both trying to get in there for the Tony Award. So
yeah, showing face.
It was just fun. And then obviously license plate guy and entertainer for doing the show with us. Those guys make it happen. So, but that was fun, and I can't wait till next year because that is definitely one of the more. Maybe the most fun thing we do that's going to happen yearly now is that FanFest event.
Yes, and thank you to the Candlewick Diner for also catering that. That was very, very cool. Everybody ate that food up pretty darn quick. I think it was also very, very cool the fact that we had those speakers going, and that was the first kind of any form of media ever where we had people like interacting as we were talking and as we were going about our things. Now, obviously we always have our Patreon stream, but we can't hear our patrons when we're talking with them live while we record the shows. So, but that was really, really cool. It's one of those moments. I've had two of them recently, and you have to sometimes sit back and reflect on life and be thankful for things and also be proud of yourself. So for me, it was being a top 10 football show after the draft that was like, oh, this is a cool moment. And then FanFest and having that show and having that, 30-minute convo with not just LPG, Bobby Skinner, and Christiana Tana, but also having it with everybody else too. That was very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely fun. I think everyone there had a good time. Everyone got to check out the van.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
And once again, just like everything that happens at MetLife Stadium recently, the parking lot was a lot more fun than inside the stadium.
Yeah, the practice wasn't great. Marcus McKeithen tore his ACL.
Yeah, of course. The second they step foot back on MetLife Stadium, somebody has a non-contact major injury.
Yeah, so Marcus McKeithen was a fifth-round guard who was practicing as the backup tackle. So we have some news to get to with that.
Yep.
And I'll announce Patreons on the next podcast because we got a lot to get to.
Got a lot to get to. We appreciate you, though.
So Eric Smith signed. Does anyone remember Eric Smith? Eric Smith was on the Giants in 2019.
Old friend.
He came over from the Jets. He's bounced around a little bit. He was the guy who came in versus the Jets when Nate Solder went down and Nick Gates was at right tackle. So not very good.
No.
He shouldn't be the Giants swing tackle. But with Matt Gano released, Marcus McKeithen's injury, they just need bodies to get through camp and let Josh Azeez practice at guard, who did miss practice on Tuesday or on Monday while recording this. But on Sunday, when he did practice, he practiced only at guard. And that's something I ranted on Friday's podcast. Yep. Is not only do they need a swing tackle, just in case of emergency, you lose Thomas or Neal once the games start, but you just need to get through. You need to get through camp and let Josh Azeez work at his NFL position, which is guard. So, you bring in a guy like Eric Smith. So now they've got a handful of tackles, very bad tackles. I think their swing tackle's probably still not on the roster unless Matt Parrott gets healthy.
He's on another NFL roster right now.
Yeah, so once we deal with 53-man cutdowns, maybe there's a swap with Slayton or something like that. But right now, I don't think the swing tackle's on the roster, but I'm glad they signed Eric Smith, even though he's not good.
Yeah, like you said, Sunday's practice was the first practice that Josh Azeez only got guard reps. Didn't split in between guard and tackle. He only got guard reps, did not practice on Monday, so we hope to see him out there soon. And, of course, Brian Dable doesn't give injury updates.
Well, yeah, Josh Azeez, he practiced all day on Sunday, didn't practice on Monday.
I was hoping that would transition to an injury update.
Well, Andre Miller.
There we go.
Who's been their number 2 tight end essentially the last few days, working as an H-back. Actually, not even the number 2 tight end, but just the starting H-back.
Yeah, he's been a starter.
Chris Myrick has gotten more reps than him on normal downs, who's listed as the Giants' second-team tight end right now. He fractured his forearm, so he's going to be out. That's probably like a 4 to 8 week injury.
Sucks. Got surgery on it, right?
Yeah, got surgery on it on Monday morning, reported by Bobby Skinner. How about that? So it's Jeremiah Hall's job, who we assumed had it at some point. So now Jeremiah Hall seems like a lock for the roster if he goes down. I will be interested to see, though, because this shouldn't be a season-long injury, I don't think.
Correct.
With Andre Miller.
So put him on a list.
Could you see them putting him on IR and that would shut him down for the season?
Him.
You know, because that's something that is used for undrafted free agents. I know Andre Miller looked like he was going to have a bigger role than your typical undrafted free agent, but that is a strategy that is used with. That's what happened with Nick Gates in 2018.
Yeah, if you want to keep both Jeremiah Hall and Andre Miller around, then stash him on IR.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to go through 53-man cutdown days, and you have both Miller and Jeremiah Hall.
Oh, we would sneeze.
So. I do think there's a good chance he might end up on IR, but we'll see. It sucks to see. It was just a great story. The guy was an undrafted free agent wide receiver.
And
was their starting H-back already this early in camp.
Yeah.
Not after just a month of just forcing his way. No, they noticed it quick. They thought he brought more than Jeremiah Hall in the receiving game, and Jeremiah Hall was never the greatest blocker anyways. So I really hope he gets better, because that was one of the more fun stories of training camp so far was Andre Miller's growth.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a fun guy to root for.
Let's see. What are we at before I think we could just kick it to the Duggan interview here, right?
Yeah, but we gotta
obviously
talk about some stuff first, Bobby Skinner. Do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Seagal Law Firm.
Wow.
Is it owned by Steven Seagal? I can't tell you. Seagal Law Firm is a New York City-based personal injury and civil rights law firm. So if Steven Seagal gave you a personal injury, you got to go to Seagal Law Firm. What separates them? They truly care about their clients. They have what they like to call a Jerry Maguire type approach, where their primary concern is extreme client attention. Show them the money! Keeping you updated on your case and providing assistance with medical providers and insurance issues. They hire the right experts and put every case in the best chance to succeed. They treat clients like family and have incredible client satisfaction as a result. A lot of firms say this. They actually do it. Treating clients like family is just one of their core values, and every decision they make is run through their core values. The misconception that you cannot afford a lawyer is not true. There is no cost to consult with Seagal Law Firm, and no out-of-pocket costs when they handle your case. You don't pay anything until we recover for you, and we then share in a percentage of that recovery. There's literally nothing to lose.
Nothing.
Do not disqualify yourself from a case for no reason. It's always worth a call to Seagal Law Firm. Give Seagal Law Firm a call at 646-810-3337 or visit them at seagal-lawfirm.com to get legal support you need. That's seagal-lawfirm.com. And here's Tony Award winner Dan Duggan of The Athletic. All right, we now welcome on to the van program. I'm starting to get used to the van. We've got Dan Duggan of The Athletic, Tony Award winner. We see the Tony Award over there.
There it is.
We ended up scrapping, and I want to talk about the Tony Award, but because practice was so eventful, we'll save it for the end. We scrapped like half of our questions because this practice was so eventful, so we want to talk about the offense. First thing was the fight. How did Bobby Johnson get involved in it? We saw Tay Crowder versus Feliciano, and then supposedly Cam Brown jumped in, who's good friends with Tay Crowder. Did you see Bobby Johnson get involved, or did you just hear that?
No, I did. So it's funny. I think everyone's perspective is different here at camp, because you can be on one side on the sideline of the defensive players, or the other side, or you can be in the stands, a different angle. So I was looking back from the defensive secondary at the whole thing. So obviously you could tell it was building. So the thing caught my eye first was Feliciano and Crowder, just went right at it. It felt like dropping the gloves in hockey. Like, as soon as that play was happening, they decided they were going at it. I think Feliciano threw like a kind of a knee at Crowder.
I saw a little hop.
Yeah. So it was like street fight stuff. But then, every time there's one of these fights, it's 90 players and everyone just there's a little bit of a pile up. But usually cooler heads prevail and guys are pulling each other off. So we were just talking about before we came on air, there's the funny picture you'll find, I'm sure, on Twitter by this point, of Cam Brown, who's kind of like a live wire, not surprising he was involved in this. He's dragging John Feliciano out, and John Feliciano looked like it was like in a war movie. Yeah, he was like a down soldier, and he's just pulling him out like dead weight. So you think, okay, that's kind of weird, but like Feliciano seemed to be playing along with it. And then when Bobby Johnson came over, and again, usually with coaches especially, it's like they're diffusing things. He gave Cam Brown like a confrontational push to the chest, and so that was like, whoa, what happened there? And then in the interim, Feliciano gets up and he throws a haymaker at Cam Brown, which always is smart, if you're throwing punches at guys with helmets. And then Cam Brown back after a beat and threw like a haymaker back at Feliciano. I don't think anyone really connected. And again, they're wearing helmets. But to me, the thing that separated this from standard camp fight was a coach becoming like the aggressor. Because then even I think it was the inside linebackers coach, which everyone calls him Eggs. I can't pronounce his name.
Agoragwu, I think.
Sure, that sounds good. He seemed especially animated. I think he wanted to kind of like get in Bobby Johnson's face. So that's the part to me, like getting the coaching staff that involved in a fight and not playing peacemaker set this apart from just the standard, boys will be boys, camp scuffle.
It wasn't Brian Cox. You would assume like if a coach was going to fight, it'd be Brian Cox.
Right. He must be on his best behavior. He's been out of the league 5 years.
He's probably like sleeping he's not going to sleep tonight. Like I can't believe I didn't get in there and throw something. Do you see them so? We couldn't hear. What was Brian Dable's? Could you hear like the reaction from Brian Dable when they huddled him up?
They crowded around.
No,
it
wasn't
minutes.
The Joe Judge where you had to muffle kids' ears like last year at that fight where it's every other word was a 4-letter word. No, I just from talking to players after, and players always downplay this stuff. But the one thing they said was the message was basically like, I like the physicality because we were talking, you could see it was building towards that, and he's okay with that playing on the edge, but you can't have, just people throwing punches and stuff because he said something, I think Daniel Bellinger might have related that that's what losing teams do. Because, in games, this was Judge's whole premise was it's 15 yards if you throw a punch and you're ejected and this and that. So I think Dave at least had to say, I don't approve of that, but he did seem like he was he didn't throw the book at him. It was more like, hey, got to rein it in, like you're playing at that edge, can't go over the edge, which, obviously they did in that instance.
That's something we talked about going into camp is not how does Brian Dable handle the first fight, but how does he handle the second fight. So I'll be interested to see
what was the third fight in that practice? That was the thing.
It was like 4 plays were just one big fight. I wasn't recording anything in team, and then it was just like they're going to fight on this play. So
doesn't matter who it is, somebody is going to fight.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's what Judge they had that fight last year, which was pretty ugly at the time, but that was the one and only fight because he certainly laid down the law. Yeah. There are going to be no more. So I would think tomorrow they're going to be in pads again. It's going to be hot again. I would think they'll dial it back a touch. And because you don't want it to become a daily thing. It's okay to have one of these, and they're all going to say, it makes us tighter. You can't have it every day because I think the biggest thing people don't realize, it's like the fight is whatever. You're losing practice time too. He has to huddle them up, and I'm sure reps got scrapped. And again, it might not be a big thing in the big picture, but it's just these guys, their time is precious. They don't want to be wasting time yelling at guys for punching each other and stuff like that. And of course, you have the injury risk with Feliciano. I think it's just so dumb when these guys throw punches. You're a center. You need your right hand. Don't throw haymakers at guys' helmets.
I think it is kind of a big thing, especially for this. That was the first team Giants offense that got involved in that fight. They were the ones that need reps. They need reps right now. So tell me where your brain is at with this Giants offense, because the thing that's most concerning and glaring to me is that it seems to be getting worse instead of not even just staying the same, but it's getting worse.
Yeah, it's so hard because you're out here every day, and every coach and everyone always tells you it's training camp. Yeah, don't evaluate. Sometimes we want them to do things that you might not understand. So you always have to try and remind yourself that. But then you get out here and you're watching. Well, that you have a natural reaction just as a football fan, football observer. And there was a couple of those days last year where I felt like it was getting better. Jones was clicking. He had 2 really good days. Then Friday night wasn't that great. Yesterday they didn't really throw the ball. But today I think this was the worst day of camp. It wasn't even close. And it wasn't just, the problem is, he gets all the attention, understandably. I didn't think it was the O-line wasn't great today. The pass rushers giving them trouble all camp. But the receivers, it's just, they're not on the same page still. And it's it's funny. There's this kind of positive storyline going about how much freedom the receivers have in this offense. Which, okay, that's great, and especially maybe in year 2 and 3 and 4, but it's gonna be ugly at times. And Kadarius Toney looked like he was kind of not with it today, dropping balls. I think when Jones had that snap where he got yanked, and there was some sort of miscommunication on the play before where Dable pulled him out and put Tyrod in, which obviously no one will overreact to that. It seemed like after that, Jones went over to the wide receivers, and I think he was talking to Toney, definitely talking to the wide receivers. I think he was trying to get them on the same page because it just feels like there has not been very good chemistry with him and the wide receivers all camp, and I think it's, everyone says, he's learning a new offense. It's they're all learning the new offense, so it's not just on Jones, and it just does not feel like they've been on the same page really consistently at all during camp.
What is the idea with the, like you said, the receiving, the freelancing stuff sounds great in the offseason, then you see it could be an issue. And then obviously the first couple of weeks of camp would probably be the toughest times of it. But what is it? Is it we've heard it's pre-snap that they're, communicating with the QB that I'm going to do this. Is it, post-snap with, we're doing this leverage, or is it hey, I'm running a totally different route than that was scripted because of the safety did this or something.
I mean, it's been a little ambiguous, and obviously they guard stuff because like it's state secrets, but I don't think it's the last thing. I don't think it's like you have the freedom to just, you're supposed to run a curl, but you're going to run a go, because obviously that could be disastrous. I think it's more that, it's concepts, and you're supposed to get, to the middle of the field, say 12 yards downfield, but how you get there is sort of up to you. Like if the corner's playing inside, you can do something, put a little sauce on it, whatever word a wide receiver wants to use to get there. Whereas the thing that they have said they didn't like in Jason Garrett's offense was it was very, you had to run what was written on the paper. There wasn't room for improvisation. You had to get to a certain point, and if the defense didn't give you that look, well, tough. You have to figure out a way. Here, they have a little more freedom, I think, just in terms of, maybe the stem of their route, how they're going to do it. And that's because the thing that makes me really believe that's the case is you hear body language a lot. So I think that's where Daniel has to look like, okay, Kadarius is leaning this way, but he's going to come back this way. And they have to know that. And again, just talking about it sounds complicated. So you can imagine when there's a pass rush and you're new to this, you can understand why it's going to look ugly at times. And I wasn't even here, but I still remember just that Gilbride offense, how that could produce some awful interceptions when Ruben Randall's running one route, Eli thought he was running something else.
Or you can have it with Plax where, he gives Eli a look or he gives him a head nod, and then they just have that chemistry.
So that's where you want to get to, but you can see there'll be some bumps along the way, and that, I think, is definitely what they're experiencing, and just you wonder how long that learning curve will take. And even if Jones and this group of receivers is going to be the ones to master it, those are the kind of the big long-term questions you have with this system.
And the thing, not to just stick with Jones because you can do so much talking on Jones, but we've seen Jones hold on to the ball for a really long time and take sacks. We've seen Jones throw interceptions, and he's thrown interceptions, so far this camp. But now what we've seen the last couple days, just flat out missing dudes. Just flat out missing dudes. And you can give Daniel Jones a lot of criticism as a quarterback, but just missing dudes so much, so often, and by a lot, that's not something we've seen. So, I mean, really what we're hoping, it's kind of two things, right? Facing Wink Martindale's defense, which I feel like we've talked about, a ton. And then also, just the lack of communication, lack of chemistry with the wide receivers in the new offense.
Yeah, and he just looks uncomfortable a lot. That's the thing, too. I mean, there's throws where he just doesn't look sure, or like you say, sailing a throw, like a little out to Bellinger on the sideline, and he airmailed it, stuff he never really did that.
Yeah.
So that's where you're wondering, is too much going on in his head? And I don't know. I mean, again, it's so hard because you guys are here every day. I'm here every day. You try not to overreact to one day, but some of this stuff has kind of been recurrent.
Yeah. And
you say, they'll just figure it out. Haven't we done that every summer the last however many years? Don't worry, it's early, it's this, it's that. And then the product you saw all August carries over September and October. So that's definitely a legitimate concern. My thing is he just has not looked comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He's definitely it's gonna click someday. Maybe it just won't. I don't know. But it doesn't look great right now, and it's definitely cause for concern.
What would help is getting reps in the preseason possibly. Now Brian Dable, I think he's going to remain kind of ambiguous with this. He talked on Monday. He said he didn't even talk to the players about it yet. Where are you leaning? Do you think it's smart to play these guys in the preseason right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he kind of let it slip because coaches always use that line with us. I haven't even talked to the players yet, but he did say, I'm going to play everybody. And then, and then he kind of was like, I guess I should have said that to the players for you guys. But no, it sounds like they're going to play now. I think he said different guys will have different workloads. And so, I mean, I wouldn't think you're going to see the first team offense play a ton of snaps on Thursday night, but I do think they're all going to play, at least every guy that's healthy. But you could definitely see a situation where, maybe Saquon gets one series. Maybe the whole starting offense gets one series. Yeah. But I think the offensive line, Daniel Jones, some of these receivers, I think they could stand to have a few reps. I mean, I know there's always injury risk, and if someone gets hurt, you're going to say it was a mistake. But so that's where you have to kind of get your opinion on the record now. I'm fine with them playing all three preseason games. Again, you're going to manage the workload. Maybe the first one is the lightest one. The second one is you get more, and the third one you treat it like the old third preseason game, play a half or even more. I think they need that because they are not a proven product. We clearly see they need the reps. And I think you mentioned earlier going against Wink's defense. I think it'd be beneficial for them to see a little bit more of a vanilla defense. It'll be live, but it's a preseason game, so you're not going to see crazy exotic looks, so you can kind of work on your stuff in almost a more controlled atmosphere, because here it's I think their heads are swimming sometimes with some of the looks they're getting.
And the defense has been insane, and they don't game plan, play. Like you said, I think it's be a breath of fresh air playing in the preseason where you can just face a four-man rush and a regular cover two or something, But I will say on the flip side of the bad of the offense, and maybe it's because they're facing a bad offense, with worries about Wink, I think we were more worried about the defense going into camp than the offense. Do you think this defense, if those top three corners stay healthy, can actually be a solid unit? Because they look like they are just getting to the QB, whether it's Kayvon and Leonard Williams beating their guy or just free rushers. I mean, it's really some. You you don't notice how crazy Wink is until you see day in, day out what he's running.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a seesaw balance, too. When we were talking earlier about evaluating camp, it's like if one side's doing really well, you say, oh, well, that side's really good, or is it maybe the other side's really bad? And it's kind of almost impossible to know. I judge it more on some guys are more known commodities. Like, I don't think that, like, Darnay Holmes is suddenly going to turn into an all-pro cornerback in year 3. Right. I think the fact that he made some plays early in camp was a little more alarming. But I think Wink's scheme, it is well known that obviously he creates havoc. He's difficult to go against. And you saw in Baltimore, up until last year when they were really decimated with injuries, they were a great unit. So I would think, yes, that unit probably could overachieve. I still think they're probably a few pieces away. Like, I'm not sold on Aaron Robinson. Like, you know, he's going against Kenny Golladay out here, and Kenny Golladay looks really stiff to me and not really, a great threat. I don't know. So, like, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about the defense. I'm not saying, like, the reason why the offense is struggling because the defense is just so good. I do think Wink's scheme is a nightmare, but as you said, too, they're not game playing against it. When you get into the season, other teams are going to have spent time game playing. The looks won't be catching them quite as off guard. I mean, that is what he does. But no, I think there's definitely cause for optimism there, especially the pass rush. Leonard Williams looking like a beast. Dexter Lawrence looks as good as he's ever looked. You know, obviously there's optimism with Thibodeau. So there is definitely some cause for optimism with that defense, but I'm not sold that it's like they're just so dominant, and what we're seeing here is a precursor of how they're going to play all season.
Yeah. You mentioned 3 guys rushing the passer. The 4th guy's been missing all camp with Azeez Ojulari. Do you have any idea of, like, when he's supposed to be back, like the severity of it, or are they playing it safe? Because it's just, you know, he's been in red for, you know, almost 2 weeks now. Yeah,
I've checked in on him maybe Friday or Saturday, and the word I got is that he'd be ready to return to practice at some point this week. Now, with the game, I don't know how that timeline will exactly work out. You know, I'm sure they won't rush him out there tomorrow, but maybe I think their next practice after the game is until Sunday. I would think he'll be back by Sunday. I mean, I could be wrong by a day or two. Like, I don't think he's weeks away, put it that way. So, Like, I think if they didn't have a game, maybe he'd be back sooner, but there's no sense rushing him to, go through warm-ups on Thursday night because he's obviously not going to play. I think I would like to see, based on what I've heard, I would expect to see Sunday or at least early next week get him back on the field practicing, and then I don't know if he'd even be ready to turn around and play in the second preseason game, but I think you want him to be kind of full systems go by the third preseason game. Nothing I've heard has indicated there's like this major Ellison Smith type deal where we're going to be talking about it 2 months into the season. I think he should be fine, and I think he'll be back sooner than later. You watch him on the side, he looks like he's moving pretty well, but they're definitely going to be cautious. There's certainly no benefit to rushing a guy back from a hamstring injury who's fairly well established. It's August 8th or something like that. There's no need to rush right now.
Shane emphasized early on, might have even been his introductory press conference, about finding a solution to the injuries, finding some sort of solution. Then lo and behold, Giants step on MetLife Stadium field. Marcus McKeithen has a non-contact torn ACL. And McKeithen's like, hey, you could say that he's not an important player. He's an important player because you're the one who's been pointing out that every single day since then, every single practice that they've had, they're working out offensive linemen because they simply just need bodies.
Yeah.
They need bodies at this point. So is there anything that you've heard? And I mean, I would hate if somebody asked this question to me because I think injuries are injuries. They're going to happen. And I would like to think that if John Mara and the Giants could do something about the field at MetLife, that they would spend the money and do it. But have you heard anything, in terms of Shane, the Giants front office, what's happening in that building over there, about what they're doing about finding a root cause of these injuries and what's happening at MetLife?
Yeah, I mean, as far as MetLife, that became a hot topic. It was like the 49ers, I think, was where they played the Jets and the Giants back-to-back weeks, and Shanahan was pretty vocal, which you don't usually hear that type of thing. So that definitely heightened it, and around that time, the Giants had a few of their own. But it was a hot topic. Like you said, Shane brought it up, and it was something they certainly need to get to the bottom of. Because I think it's been funny, like, Dable and Shane have talked about, like, how like the sports science staff, the athletic staff, all these staffs.
Yeah, I don't even know if they've changed any of the trainers. They haven't changed any of those
people.
No.
So it's like where it was just Joe Judge, Ben McAdoo, Pat Shermer, all these guys were doing things wrong, and so that was why I'm a little skeptical. Like, are we sure that those people are in the right roles? You've made a lot of changes, haven't made any there. I will say, I think Buffalo, this is anecdotal, like has been a fairly healthy team, and you can see that Brian Dable definitely had a very measured approach in the spring and a ramp up here. These last couple of days have been the first couple of days of camp that really felt like camp. Very physical, ton of reps, running sprints even, that little bit of that they've done. But no, there's no no one has come out like, oh, we've discovered the problem. I think it's, there's a lot of things that go into it. But as far as the turf, that came up at the owners meeting. We asked John Mara about it, and let's be honest, like, his opinion's like one of the only few that really matters, because if they're gonna rip that up, it's gonna be him. It's gonna be Jets ownership. Maybe the league would have to step in. But I guess that they're passing the tests every week. The field's going under tests, and they're passing that. But John Mara said there's been studies that field turf it's no greater frequency, or their field turf is no greater frequency than other field turf. So if he's okay with it, I don't think anything's going to change. And, again, a little bit's anecdotal, but I mean, they obviously do have people doing these studies, and it's their product on the field. So whatever money it would cost to replace that field, if you can assure Blake Martinez's ACL and all these guys' ACL, it'd be worth it to do it. So, I mean, apparently they don't have the same concerns that, we do on the outside, just in terms of, it seems like it's more often, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Ricky Seals-Jones hasn't practiced since day one, I think. Andre Miller looked like he was going to make the team, then he fractured his forearm.
Scoop? You have a scoop?
Yeah, per source.
Wow.
Poor sauce.
Pick your 3 tight ends to make the roster right now, because it's kind of funny when you do it. It was funny before Andre Miller, but now it's even more so.
I don't think it's the most important position group because, whatever, I don't think it's a big part of this offense, but it's the worst position group. You might not have, a legitimate NFL player. I mean, I know people, the Daniel Bellinger hype train got a little carried away in the spring, and he's legitimate.
Same
NFL.
RAS score as Travis Kelce.
Yes.
Huge. Anytime I say he's not the most athletic guy, I get that tweeted at me.
All I need to know about the RAS scores is that fact, because, you see him under it. I would not say he's a dynamic athlete. I mean, he might be a fine player. I compared him to Kevin Boss as, a ceiling-ish.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's
kind of what I want out of my tight end.
Exactly. Let's not talk about George Kittle and Travis Kelce, but he's obviously one guy, and like I said, I say not legitimate NFL tight end. All signs are he will be, but obviously we don't know. Beyond that, I assume if Ricky Seals-Jones just comes back and has a pulse, he'll make the team. I don't know. It's been very strange because Dable doesn't give anything on injuries, but usually you can just kind of deduce it, whether a guy's running on the side, whether a guy's working a certain body part on the side. We haven't seen Ricky Seals-Jones, so I don't know what's going on there. So maybe that's a long-term thing, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But let's just say him, and then, I don't know, that last spot, I would have thought of probably Andre Miller. Maybe it's Jeremiah Hall because they just want an H-back type guy. I don't know if Chris Myrick or...
Chris Myrick is making a strong comeback. He had that playoff experience with the Bengals. But like I said, after the scrimmage, it seems like it's going to be Bellinger, Miller, and Chris Myrick, and then, then the Miller injury.
So, Myrick, I guess you're talking 2 tight end sets. I guess you had to put Myrick in it for now, and then you would assume that Ricky Seals-Jones, if he comes back at a point, can win that job. And I think Hall's not a lock or anything, but if they want that type of guy and body type, he's the only one left now. With Miller's injury. But I don't think the tight end's gonna be a big part of this offense, regardless. So I'm not saying it doesn't matter, and you definitely need them to block in the run game. But I think that they're going to be the 5th option on a lot of these, routes. And the offense is going to funnel through Saquon and the wide receivers. And it's not going to be Evan Ingram, we got to get this mismatch down the seam. Those days are over. That's not the type of offense I think they're trying to run. Yeah,
you've seen Bellinger get almost no targets so far through camp. But so, like you said, the main thing I'm watching for Bellinger come Thursday is how well does he block in the NFL compared to at San Diego State? Because seems like it's going to be his main role on the team.
All right, before we mess around, we talk about some Tony Award stuff. I respect you, Dan Duggan. Partially because you're a guy that, not only talks about, did Daniel Jones have a good day? Did the offense have a good day? Defense have a good day, et cetera. But tendencies, behaviors, what people are doing. So are there certain observations that you've had of camp so far about how certain people are behaving, how players are behaving, et cetera, that you want to note?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I have to look back to my own practice reports because, the observations are fast and furious in those. I try to see beyond just what happens in the 11-on-11 snaps. I think it's just very clear that this coaching staff is not, I don't say going out of their way. I think this is who Dable is, but they are very players coaches. Everything is, it's a lot more relaxed than Joe Judge. John Feliciano said,
except Bobby Johnson.
Exactly. Feliciano, I asked him what have you noticed different about Dable? The guy's been around a little bit, and he's like, well, we get to sleep in. We don't, our day doesn't start till 9 a.m. That's what? In the NFL world, that's crazy to have so very, and again, that can have a negative connotation. It's kind of neutral to me, but it's just different. It's not grinding these guys in the dirt. I will say the last 2 days have felt a little more old school. This is the practices scripts he probably got from Bill Belichick, less than, whoever new age people he was talking to or learning from. Because I know a guy who's, a big part of you guys' show and your brand is Tony. I watch him a lot. And he's kind of doing, they have him and Kenny Galladay on their own program. It's special teams, and they have 12 guys back there returning punts, and Tony isn't even among that group. He goes over, and it's just him and Galladay and Mike Rowe, and they're working on things, or then in the individual periods, he's doing stuff with the running backs for a couple of snaps. So that's interesting to me. That they are very much always kind of keeping tabs on him, keeping him involved. He's not really standing around kind of left to his own devices. They always seem to have a structure for him.
Oh, that's great.
He's a guy who I know you guys are very high on. I have low expectations long term. I think you're going to see the sparks that you saw last year at times. I just have a hard time believing he's going to, like, week in, week out, be reliable. I think you're going to see plays this year where there's going to be interceptions where you say, what the heck happened there? And Daniel Jones will get up to the podium like, oh, yeah, we've run on the same page. And I think, 89 might play a role in that. I don't know. That's just my prediction. I don't know that he just flips that switch. I haven't seen that yet. I think the talent is undeniable. He's been healthy. They've definitely managed him this camp. That's been a good thing. But he's a guy who I still have some questions about if he's totally – taking that step in his professionalism, maturity, all that stuff. So he's a guy I watch a lot out here. But yeah, other than that, it's funny. Like, people are like, oh, what's different about practice? Like, this is my, I guess, fourth head coach. They all kind of run the same stuff. It's stretch, it's special teams, indie, team periods. So, like, nothing to me is, like, drastically different other than I would just say, like, that kind of atmosphere. And a lot of times it's the new coach is different from the old coach, whereas Judge, it was very, like, intense and the sprints and stuff, and then this just feels kind of the other end of the spectrum in a lot of ways, which is kind of par for the course.
We're going to clip that Toney conversation and tweet it or send it to Coach Steph Brown, Toney, and then Danny Boy Hustle Hard so we could see.
Yeah, I don't know. I just walked myself. You didn't even ask me about that. I just walked myself into that minefield, but I just I know. I mean, I got the award.
I'm good. I'm good at what I do, Dan.
Just left it that open-ended.
Well, even you say we're Toney guys, we got into it with his trainer, so they definitely have an edge to them about any sort of criticism.
Here's what I want. One time this camp, I want him not to be like the 14th wide receiver in a drill. I know that's like a crusty old person observation.
I haven't observed that, so
there you go. Watch this. Wide receiver drills. Like, you want that scrappy guy's going to be first in line. Let me show you. Like, always hanging in the back. These are just little things that you observe 7 years.
Right.
It's
That's what coaches like. They like to see you first in line.
Maybe beat Alex Bachman to get that rep.
But does he stretch at least? Kenny Galladay doesn't stretch.
Never stretches.
It's funny. I don't have a great vantage point on the stretch, and you guys have the elevation, so they kind of did it weird now. It's like they're bunched together. So I saw you tweeted that. And that's
continuously. He just doesn't stretch.
And that's great for a guy who has the injury history. Because it's funny. There's certain guys who don't, like DRC never stretched. He literally just danced the whole time.
Yeah.
But then he was just a freak athlete, and it didn't matter. But like, I think Kenny could probably use a little, like, touch the toes, get the hamstrings loosened out. Like, he could probably stand to do a little. I'll have to look out for that. That's a good observation. I haven't noticed. I don't know if Kadarius does. It probably goes through the motion.
Him and Richie James are good friends. They're dapping each other up doing warm-ups and stuff like that. So they're fun.
We're on the Toney topic. You obviously won the inaugural Toney Award. You didn't have to kiss our ass at all because we just created it the week that we did the voting on it.
Yeah.
Kind of a spin-off of the Good Guy Award.
Kind of.
So I don't know if we're going to put you a part of the committee, but I want to ask your opinion since you're the inaugural winner. We're thinking about changing the voting system because it's named specifically, not sure if you're a good guy, but Best Giants Beat Reporter award presented by Kadarius Toney, presented by Talking Giants. You can see it's a mouthful. We're thinking about changing the voting system to where it's not a first, second, and third.
Okay.
But just the most first place votes. Because, you could see a guy, hey, like, may not be you see a lot of guys get into, like, hey, I like this guy, even though he may not be my favorite reporter. So do you think we should go to just first place or the first, second, and third?
Because last year was first, second, and third?
Yes.
And I killed everybody.
I think you probably got the most first place votes anyway, so you don't have to stress about that.
Well, no, I mean, I think what you've done is really, a high standard. We've the exact same rules the PFWA chapter does. So how do we do? We do first, second, and third, I think. Right?
I have no clue how you do.
I think we do first, second, and third. So I think that's the established way to do it. I don't think you want to veer from the very.
I think we have to stick by the
distinguished
rules.
award.
Then we'll stick by the rules.
And I must say, my 4-year-old daughter is very proud, also very confused. She's like, why did you get a trophy from work? Like, she thinks it's cool, but she does not quite wrap her mind around it. And it's very hard to explain to my wife.
Just tell her you just won the Best Giants Beat Reporter
Okay,
award.
all right.
I am the best.
Are you thinking about putting your weight behind a candidate? I mean, Jordan had us on his podcast.
He's like campaigning, right?
Oh,
He brought cookies over here, I think.
Yeah, he is flat out campaigning.
Cookies too. Oatmeal raisin, it's all right.
Oh, well, I think you should hold that against him.
They're still good.
You could put your weight behind one of the heavy hitters, or you can be like, blaze your own trail, and maybe someone that's not in the front running. Do you?
Well, I mean, I'll say like being the inaugural winner means that much more to me because, as you said, I didn't have any time to campaign. I never met you guys before today. It was kind of fun to just keep you as like internet personality.
We've been in the same places at the Senior Bowl.
The Senior Bowl was the one I was actually gonna go find you guys.
Sure.
And listen what happened. I was sitting in the bleachers talking to somebody, and I saw you guys filming, so I figured out where you were. I was going to go over and talk to them at some point here.
And then the lawsuit happened.
And then the Brian Flores lawsuit showed up on my phone, and I was like, this is like a joke, right? And then as I started reading it, I was like, oh, it's very much not a joke. And then I had to obviously go right on that. And the next day, I think it rained, so I never got up. But so this is the first time I met you guys, which is quite something.
Wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Also, how we're different from, like we stay in our lane. We give, you guys are in your lane.
We're interviewing people in vans, too.
Like the Senior Bowl, like you guys go out at night, you make connections. Like, people like Joe Shane's at this bar. And we were like, should we go to that?
No.
Instead, we just went to some, hole in the wall, smoking cigarettes inside, singing karaoke till 2 a.m. bar. Because, like, you know what? We're not going to go and, harass Joe Shane and network. We just want to go have a good time after watching Senior Bowl.
Okay.
So.
But to throw it back to your question, I will certainly not put my weight behind anybody. I mean, I know the rule that we have is you can't win back-to-back, but I mean,
That's from you guys,
I know. So, I mean, I just have to sit this one out and see who I have to defeat next year, basically, I guess. Because obviously I think my new colleague, Zach Rosenblatt, would have been potential leader in the clubhouse, but now he's obviously gone to the dark side covering the Jets for The Athletic. I don't know. Who is the early... I mean, is Jordan's campaigning paying off, you think?
I think it's between Art and... If it goes to the first place, just the first place, which is looking like, I think Jordan will have a better chance because Art, everybody likes Art. So Art's... Even if they don't have him as first, he's going to get a lot of second and third place votes. So I think the favorite is still Art Stapleton right now.
Some people hate Jordan, which...
Jordan's going to get a lot of first place votes, but he'll also get no votes at all.
Right. So what are you going to do trophy-wise? Do I get... This is my trophy, right?
Yeah, we'll create a new trophy.
All right.
Maybe we'll put inscribe your name on the back or something.
Fair enough.
Spend the extra $5.
It'll end up being like the Stanley Cup. You'll have to add a layer as years go on.
We'll be 50 years old still doing this stupid joke.
Of course.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting. We said the guy that from whoever comes and fills Zach's role, write an article about Talking Giants as a whole and how it started. That could be
true.
Because Zach went from nobody to not nobody, but brand new,
harsh
to second place. So
because he wrote about Talking Giants.
Yeah, like he did.
And Snacks' tattoo.
He did some favors for us. So, anyways, that's it for an interview. Dan Duggan of The Athletic. Go follow him at dduggan21.
You got it.
You shared some high school basketball clips, and I was like, okay, that makes sense why
21.
He's got 21.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that Twitter handle since 2009, and it's just can't change it now.
Subscribe to The Athletic. You can read his stories. You can even read Zach's every once in a while too. So, all right, Dan, we appreciate you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Finished the Duggan interview, but we forgot to get his record prediction. So you got 30 seconds to give your record prediction.
I think I put 5-12 in print after the schedule. Can't say anything I've seen out here this summer has swayed me, so I'm going to stick with 5-12.
I think that's the lowest so far. We've got a 1-9 win in there, so...
9? Are you into a T-Dot?
No. Even though he's our best friend now, we haven't, so... All right, that's Dan Duggan, 5-12. Better than last year? We got 4 wins last year?
Yeah.
All right, so progress. All right, thanks again, Dan Duggan, for coming on the podcast. Turn big league action into big winnings with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any game and get $100 in free bets instantly. Plus, all customers can combine multiple bets for a shot at an even bigger payout with DraftKings same-game parlays. At DraftKings Sportsbook, you'll be able to bet on your favorite batter to hit a double in his next plate appearance, your favorite pitcher's next pitch to be a strike, and so much more. Bet on the Mets. The Mets are really good right now.
Yeah, they're fun.
Jacob deGrom's back, so just bet on the Mets.
I think I may be going to the Met game Friday night.
I'm actually thinking about betting on the Giants. Actually, I'm not thinking.
San Francisco Giants?
I bet on the New York Giants to win and the over parlay for Thursday. So.
Oh, huge. Do it.
I hope it hits. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JOHNBOY. New customers can make any $5 bet and get $100 in free bets instantly. That's promo code JOHNBOY only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. MLB trademarks used with permission. All right. We're going to go through. Usually what we do is we do our preseason players to watch. Mm-hmm. Which we're going to do a form of that, but I think we should do our preseason things to watch, instead of doing 5 guys. So we'll both do 2 for this preseason game. Brian Dable did say that they're going to play all their guys. Obviously, I wouldn't expect Kadarius Toney to get the same amount of reps as Shane Lemieux, But, all their guys are going to play, and I think that's important. We talked about with Dan Duggan, especially on the offensive end. Like, these guys need to face something different than Wink Martindale, and they just need they need live bullets just working this offense.
Yeah.
Now, with Daniel Jones being sacked, that matters. It makes such a big difference when you're, not being sacked in practice versus like, hey, you got to get rid of this ball or it's a sack and this drive is most likely over. Sacks are drive killers. So they definitely need that, even though they're not going to see the most exotic stuff. They'll see less exotic stuff than what they're seeing in practice, essentially.
Yep.
All right, my first thing I'm going to look for, though, is Daniel Bellinger's blocking. It's actually looked fairly good in training camp so far. But that was my biggest. Like, he's not going to be a huge part of the receiving game in the regular season. He might have a game or two, but he's not very athletic where he's making plays. We see in practice he's not being targeted a ton, and usually, and a lot of times goes a whole practice with the first team not being targeted at all. In fact, I think I would like him to be used more as a check down valve with some of the issues we've seen with the offense. So I would like to see him more involved in the receiving game as camp and practice goes along. But his blocking is what's going to decide how good of a rookie season he has.
Yeah.
Not his receiving stats, his blocking. Because he's looked good in practice, but blocking in practice and blocking at San Diego State is a whole nother level. And if he can walk into the NFL and be a solid blocker, like, that's a huge win already with Daniel Bellinger. And whatever he adds receiving wise,
is the cherry on top.
Round pick is the cherry on top.
Yeah.
So Daniel Bellinger's blocking is something I'm really looking forward to. And again, I'm not looking for him to be perfect. Like, if he has some horrible blocking rep, I'm not going to overreact to that. I'm going to look at as a whole. Is he sustaining his block? Not is he, dominating guys, but is he just sustaining his block to allow them to run the ball?
Yeah.
And I think that's been a difference a little bit too, as we've seen the Giants offense run the ball. So Daniel Bellinger's blocking is the first thing that I'm looking for in this preseason game.
All right, cool. Good thing to watch out for. First thing I'm watching out for.
It's Daniel Jones. No. We're not going to do the obvious.
No, yeah. I mean, of course, yeah. Daniel Jones. How comfortable does he look? But I'm also looking to see how comfortable does Saquon Barkley look. Like, he has looked. I'm saying this kind of, between my teeth. Knowing that I'm a little hesitant on Saquon Barkley, but. We've seen him in practice. He's looked good. He's running north and south. He's hitting the hole hard. He looks explosive, right? I think it's very different in the game. I think looking good in practice and then looking good in some sort of simulated game, I think those two things are very different, especially for running backs. So is Saquon Barkley, even if he gets a series or two and some other starters get some longer periods of time, is Saquon Barkley hitting the hole hard? If there is a hole there, is he getting 4 or 5 yards? Is he being efficient? Does he break off a big run? I mean, that would be – I'm not complaining about that either. So first thing I'm looking out for is Saquon Barkley. How explosive does he look? How efficient is he?
Yeah, two things with Barkley is, one, like you said, if there's an opportunity to break one big, does he have the burst?
Yeah.
We saw in his biggest run.
That'd be cool.
We saw his biggest run last year was week 2 versus Washington. And part of he's like, yeah, that's a 48-yard run. But
didn't look awesome.
Part of me thinks old Saquon breaks this for 7.
Yeah.
But also, like you mentioned, how does he hit the hole? Because he's been hitting the hole in practice, but practice can be very different. You don't have the stress of if this doesn't work, this play's over. So it's not just hitting some wide open hole, but when it's a slim hole.
Yeah.
And if you hit that hole hard, you're going to get 3 yards. But if you're hesitant, you're going to get 0 yards or -1 yards, and you're looking to bounce and make a home run out of it. That's what I'm looking for out of Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Is, like you said, getting more north and south when it matters. Okay, we don't need him to be north and south when the hole is wide open. Any running back can do that. But when that hole is not very big and there's 3 yards and you're tempted to be Saquon Barkley, the superstar, and try and cut it back or dance and maybe try and bounce it outside, do you hit that hole and get those 3 yards? Because that's what we need Saquon Barkley to be at his best. Because guess what? When you're doing that, the long ones are going to come to you. Don't force the big plays. Let them come to you. So that's something I'm looking for with
and
Saquon.
Especially if this passing offense is going to continue to struggle and not be on the same page, could be running the ball a lot to start the season.
Next thing, a guy who hasn't gotten much run with no run with the first team and limited with the second team, Micah McFadden. Like, Darian Beavers is ahead of him on the depth chart right now. There's no doubt about that. And the Giants put out their unofficial depth chart, and he's ahead of him. But although he was drafted 2 rounds later, but I think Micah McFadden could be one of those players who will look better in games than practice. Like, he just seems like a gamer where he's playing with his instincts and it comes to him a little quicker. And there's guys like that. There's guys who just play, but they're just better in games than they are practice. And I think McFadden could be one of those guys. So I'm interested to see if McFadden is a playmaker. Do I want to see him hold up well when he's, when they're running up the A gap and he's got to face a guard or a center? Yeah. Am I looking for him to do well in that? But I want to see how well does he do when they stretch it outside and how well does he transition into coverage. So Micah McFadden, does his game translate better to the game than practice? Because, that's how Ryan Connolly started getting the noise going.
When he actually saw him,
Yeah, in those preseason games, he started playing really well. And then when they gave him some game action in 2019, then he started playing well. So, and then he got cut by the next regime coming off of the injury after never playing in a game. So, how well does Micah McFadden play is something I'm looking for.
Yeah, when you tell Micah McFadden to go and play full speed, I can easily see him being the type of player that looks better in a game versus practice because he plays with that go, go, go mentality at Indiana. So I'm excited to watch him. My second thing.
Why don't you read an ad?
Oh, way to interrupt me there real quick. Before we talk about my second thing to watch out for, you got to watch out for Roman. Listen, I mean, this Giants offense, they're struggling, right? They're struggling in camp. We talked about that with Dan Duggan. They're not. Daniel Jones isn't feeling confident. The Giants offense isn't feeling confident. The wide receivers are not feeling confident. But you want to know how you can feel confident, especially when you're talking about in bed, you're talking about being with your significant other? You got to get with Roman. Roman T support. It's meant to help men. It's meant to help men maintain their body's natural testosterone production. Roman T support, its proprietary supplement is formulated by Roman's in-house doctors. You can't find this blend anywhere else. Roman offers flexible monthly plans with 2-day shipping, and it's discreet. Love the 2-day shipping. It gets to you quick. It also helps you get up quick. You know what I'm saying, Bobby Skinner? I want you to go to GetRoman.com/world today. If you're approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of Roman T support. That's GetRoman.com/world. Talking Giants versus the world. Go do that today. Don't be like the Giants offense. Be confident. Be Roman ready. GetRoman.com/world. Thank you to Roman.
All right. What's the last thing you're looking for in the preseason game versus the Patriots?
Yeah, the last thing that I'm looking forward to is, or I'm looking out for, I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. I hope somebody who is in the backup secondary is going to surprise me and is going to wow me. Rodarius Williams, he was out of practice on Sunday. I don't know if I saw him out there on Monday's practice. I'll keep an eye out for it on Tuesday. But Rodarius Williams on the first unofficial depth chart was the backup outside corner. So we know what Rodarius can be. We know what he kind of should be. A man coverage corner that was drafted a little bit on the older side, right? We got him last year. But like Khalil Dorsey, you're a backup slot corner. Can you make a play? Darren Evans, Zion Gilbert, I think both outside guys. Michael Jacquet, Gavin Heslop, Nathan Meadows, Gerard Wilson. Some of these guys that are in the secondary were literally, I had to look at the Giants roster to look up their names because I just don't know who these guys are. And the secondary is literally an Adoree Jackson or Aaron Robinson or Darnay Holmes from going down. And the concept and the vision and the expectations of this defense, I think, drastically changes. So can a backup secondary player, whether it is a safety or a corner, can they stand out for us?
Yeah, and the defense has really shined. It's been fun to watch in practice, but also it's one cornerback injury, like you said, away from being a total
disaster.
Like a total disaster. So that's definitely something to watch. Here's something I'm going to throw on the list. Something to watch on Thursday.
Please do.
Joe Judge.
Wow, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing Joe Judge.
I think the Giants telecast and the Giants broadcast, so we're going to be watching that because we're going to be live streaming from the John Boy Media office.
The Giants are going to avoid him like the plague on
They are? I think they're going to show him a little bit. I think the Giants broadcast is going to show Joe Judge more than the Patriots broadcast.
You think so?
That's my theory because I think that's a storyline.
I mean, I'll be looking for every interaction he has, so that'll be interesting. But I don't hate Joe Judge, so I'm looking forward to seeing his face. Like if I see his face on TV from Patriots, I'm like, oh, there's Joe Judge.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have. I think you should know us by now. We're not gonna have this vitriol reaction like, oh, get off the TV.
Yeah, like when Jason Garrett shows up on the halftime show,
I want to vomit.
Yeah.
I'll be editing podcasts anytime pregame of Sunday Night Football.
Speaking of which, Jason, Patrick Graham's preseason defense was like pitching a shutout.
Oh yeah.
Jason Garrett doing the halftime show. So.
That tells you where what happened there.
All right, so we appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow for a player profile and projection and live stream training camp recap. So we appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, let's go Big Blue.